Welcome back to the Centre Half Bench podcast. The final match review for 2020 is upon us. On the weekend, we had the first ever grand final at night and the first ever grand final out of Victoria. In that grand final, the Tigers became back-to-back premiers, and in so, they solidified their dynasty that they've created over the last 4 years. They did that with a win against the Cats. Enough talking, let's rip into it. So, big stories this week, Sasha. What have you got for us?
Yeah, so the Tigers held their annual best and fairest, and a winner came out to a lot of people's, to my surprise. I'm not sure about a lot of people, but Jaden Short came out with the Jack Dyer medal, so their first place in the best and fairest award. And he's had a hard year, obviously, having to move away from his family. Like he mentioned, he's the passing of his father, so that's not the best, and having to be interstate for about 3.5, 4 months, so, and not being able to see his mum or his sister or even be able to help him during those hard moments. So for him to come out, win a premiership, have an amazing game that in the grand final, and winning their best and fairest, it's a really good effort on his behalf.
Yep. And Dustin Martin, well, he won his third Norm Smith. It was a record-breaking amount of Norm Smiths. First ever player in AFL history to reach that milestone. He's really just proving what a gun he is. Certainly in finals, he always steps up to another notch. And the big players step up in finals, and that's what makes them big players. And he's certainly a gun of the game and one of the best players in history in finals. I'm not saying he is the best because I don't think he's the best, but he's up there.
Yeah, and Lee Matthews came out this week saying Dusty's the only player he doesn't get angry being compared to. So that's massive on Dusty's behalf. So it's definitely going to be interesting by the end of his career. Possible GOAT or not. It'll definitely be interesting.
Yeah, and during the week, you mentioned obviously the Richmond player Dustin Martin. Dylan Grimes, one of his teammates, revealed that he was going to leave the hub after 2 weeks due to pressure on his winery business and obviously due to COVID and having to place staff and all that. And he said he was going to not go, but due to the pressure because of other players not going, he felt that he had to go, and he packed very light, only expecting to be there for 2 weeks. However, he did end up winning a premiership, so I'm sure he's glad he stayed.
He'd definitely be happy with that. Coming out with his third flag,
third
not
flag.
Sure. Of course, it was his third flag. Now let's get on to the game. It was Tigers Cats at the Gabba, as you guys know, in the first ever night grand final. And before we talk about the game, Dry, what are your thoughts on the night grand final? For me, I didn't like it. The fact that I thought it would have been better, but just the fact about waiting a whole day just for two teams to go at it. There's no footy in between or anything like that. It was just a waste of time, to be honest, to wait a whole day for it.
Yeah, the wait was way too long in my opinion. And for young players that are playing their first grand final, which might have been a downfall for Geelong because they had 15 players playing their first grand final, rather than having a couple of hours to worry about it, they had a whole day. Once it was at night, the atmosphere was good. I guess the Gabba took that into account. And if they do keep it night grand final, it'll be purely because of the statistics of people watching it. However, those statistics are invalid this year because Victoria's in lockdown and you can't go to the games. So I reckon they should bring it back to a day grand final, stop all this, keep the tradition, don't change it. That's my opinion.
They say why fix something if it isn't broken or something along those lines. And the day grand final, it suits it a lot better.
And obviously the first and hopefully only grand final was taken out. The Tigers winning by 31 points. Now in our grand final preview, we predicted Dusty. I predicted Dusty to win the Norm Smith. However, I thought it was due to media bias. His last two Norm Smith he hasn't deserved necessarily. They've just given it to him because he's Dustin Martin. However, this one was the only one he deserved, and he deserved it heaps. He was a freak on the ground, 4 goals, 21 touches, 10 contested, 450 plus metres gained and 5 clearances. He stepped up big time. And with Patrick Dangerfield, his opponent, who we thought were going to have a big day out, him not having a big impact on the game and Dusty stepping up really proved that Dusty is one of the best finals players.
So obviously the Tigers coaching has to deserve an applause. In 2016, Damien Hardwick was on the ropes. Questions about his job and him as a coach. So and him and his coaching staff have turned it around, and they've come out and they've won 3 in 4 years and created a dynasty. During the season, they were ranked 17th for clearances, but won that in every single finals game. It just shows that the difference in regular season football and finals footy, and those clearances was definitely the key to winning games, because if you can get open possessions, usually you convert on them, and that's exactly what the Tigers did.
Yep. And so they did turn that around. Kudos to them, changing a game style and stepping up in finals. However, Gary Ablett Jr. retiring after an amazing career. It was heartbreaking to watch him in that first quarter suffer that shoulder injury that Brent McCaffar first did against him in a game against Collingwood. And it was the way he did it again. It looked very similar. That sort of tackle lands on it and it's very awkward. During the game and after the game, they said he most likely had a fractured and dislocated shoulder. So for him to play on in obvious pain, he would have had plenty of drugs to limit the pain, but he was in obvious pain. And for him to play on, give it his all and go out in typical champion manner, the little master, we wish him all the best in retirement, and he certainly proved why he was one of the best players in AFL history.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Joel, let's get into Footy Stocks now.
Yep. If you're new to our channel, Footy Stocks is our main segment where we talk about something we like the look of that we want to buy into, something we don't like the look of that we want to sell, and something we are not sure about that we want to hold on to. So on that note, Sasha, what are you buying in?
For me, buying in the Tigers to compete for another flag next year as well. It's not a massive call, but I think I'm going to buy into it because they definitely have the potential. They definitely have the list. They got a couple players out of contract. Marlon Pickett comes to mind, and a couple other players. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. But I've got the Tigers competing for another flag next year.
Yep. And for me, I've got Geelong in 2021. Obviously, they went down with a gallant effort against Richmond. You add Cameron, experience of grand finals, the improvement of those role players into that team, and it will help them immensely next year. They'll possibly cover the loss of Gary Ablett with all of those improvements, and I see them backing up and going deep into finals once again. What are you selling, Sasha?
Yeah, I'm selling the Cats finals record. It's probably one of the worst records in the last decade, and they're always in the finals, but they go either out in the prelim or either the first round. And this time they did go out in the granny, and like you said, in a very good game. But I reckon there's got to be questions raised around Chris Scott as well. Won a flag in 2011, but you could argue and you can make the point that it wasn't his team. It was just kind of a team that he took over, and they were good enough to win a flag. So there's still questions are raised around the Cats finals records, I reckon, and Chris Scott as a whole.
For me, I'm selling the AFL gods. It's a cruel game. First, we had Brad Ebert knocked out in his last game last week, and then the GOAT Gary Ablett injured in his last game this week. He showed fight, and both of them showed fight, and they deserved. Gary Ablett certainly deserved that final flag fairy tale to go out with, but it wasn't that way. For me, I'm holding on to the Tigers, making it a three-peat. They're below a level in the home and away season, and in my opinion, if they don't improve on that next year, they can find themselves in the top 8, not the top 4, and that can put their finals hopes in jeopardy, even though if anyone can repeat what the Bulldogs did, I think that is this Tigers team. What are you holding?
For me, I'm going to hold on to the Cats making another good finals run. They're a very, very consistent team, and if you're a basketball fan, they're kind of like the San Antonio Spurs, where they consistently make the finals and they consistently they'll either perform or they don't. It's really one of the two. So but I've got the Catters being in the finals in the mix 2021.
That's it for Footy Stocks this week. I hope you've enjoyed the segment over the year. If you have any ideas for any future segments for the draft period, the trade period, even for next year, let us know down below. But anyway, let's crack on with the review. Danger and Hawkins, they were hyped up all week, but they underperformed. Obviously, Danger having 12 goals, 12 touches, 1 goal. Hawkins having 10 touches, 1 goal. This could link, Danger's quiet night could link to him playing forward, even though he should have probably been in the mid at times. And also to Hawkins with obviously becoming sick and the coronavirus risk he posed. Obviously tested negative to that. In my opinion, Danger wasn't going to repeat what he did against Collingwood, where he kicked 4 goals in that semi-final. So why are they wasting him by setting him up forward for the whole game? He had 64% time in offense, and he did want it, and he was throwing his body at the ball and putting his body on the line, but I think he was played in the wrong spot. And that made him, he lost touch during the game and then he could never recover.
Yeah. Obviously, Jaden Short, like we said in Big Story, he's winning their best and fairest. But he also had a massive, massive game with 25 touches, 9 contested possessions, 2 clearances, and a whopping 770 plus meters gained, which is just crazy. Obviously winning the Jack Dyer medal, like we said before, after a tough year. And it was just great to see him perform, knowing that the club does have good young talent to rely on in those coming years.
Yeah. And the grand final, it was hard at it. You had Vlossen and Ablett injured at the very start of the game. Parfitt injured his finger, and he was showing signs during the first quarter that it was uncomfortable, probably carried that throughout the game. And then Basher Hooley, the legend, revealing after the game he played through it with a torn calf. He did slightly after Vlossen was injured. It was a good pressure game. It was a hard grunt. It was a real tough game. Obviously, the wet conditions did impact that. There was plenty of outside run and skill on display, though. So all round, a very good grand final, and it was a shame so many players got injured, but that's what happens when you put everything on the line in a game like a grand final.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the better grand finals in the last couple of years. Obviously, that 2018 and the 2020 grand finals probably have been the best out of the last 4, to be honest. Adelaide Richmond was a blowout. Collingwood West Coast, we won't get into that. GWS Richmond, bit of a boring game, and obviously the Cats Tigers game was actually an absolute ripper. But thanks everyone for tuning in. Last review for the 2020 Premiership season. So hope you guys enjoyed the content we have produced so far. Got some post-season stuff coming along with the draft coming up, free agency, trade period. It's going to be massive. So make sure you guys tune in for that. As for the season, though, we hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely a different one. Hopefully something like this doesn't happen again and we do get to go back and watch the footy at the games back in Victoria. But anyways, guys, peace and release. Have a good one. Thanks.